So now I'm going to show you the first game with the bird system. So I played f2 to f4, and black was Thomas Luders, a very strong German grandmaster. We played in 1999, and it was in Schwerin, Germany. He played d7 to d5, and after knight f3, then he played bishop to g4. You see, earlier in Ben Larsen's career, he also played bird. But he stopped playing it because all the Russians, he said, was playing this system here, and he never found any poison against it. So the idea is, of course, to exchange an f3 and then continue with e5 with at least equal game. But in 2000, under the Danish championship, I was speaking with Mr. Ben Larsen. And he said to me that he had seen this game I'm going to show you now, and he liked it a lot, and he thought that this new move in move 6, you will see it later, opens up for total new perspectives for white. And he said that he won against Peterson in the same variation, but it was not because of the opening, but the middle game. You know, if you look after in ECO bind A, there's not much help to find. A little note that it cannot be used for anything, and I don't bother to bring it here. So I think it's very important for white now to continue with E3, so not to allow the double pawn on F3. Now the queen can take back on F3 in case black takes the knight. And now knight to d7, already black is able to play e5 here. And now I think it's very important to play h3, attacking the bishop. Now the bishop has to take on f3. If he doesn't, let's see what happened then. You know, if he goes to h5 for example, and then after g4, bishop g6 and f5, he has a lost position because the bishop will have to leave the board without compensation. So now he also has to take on f3, and after queen takes f3, he can play e5, but I don't believe in that move. Then he will sacrifice the pawn on d5. I have analyzed this variation with Fritz, and I don't believe in it. So now I will concentrate on black defending the pawn on d5. Of course he has now many opportunities to defend the pawn, but in this game we will only concentrate on knight g to f6. So after g4, then white has more space on the king side, and he has the bishop pair. Now in this game, Thomas Luders, he played e6, and of course this is the move, you know, the sixth move, g4, that creates totally new opportunities for white. I actually prefer white in this position. So, but let's see, instead of e6, if he had played e5. This move has been played also on the internet. I have seen some Morezevich games where Morezevich played f4 with white, and in especially this position, then he continued with g5, and now he's attacking the knight on f6 and d5, so black has to play e4. And now it's important to put the queen back to e2, so not to allow the knight to go to h5. The knight will then have to go back to d8. Now in this position, white can continue with h4, followed with bishop h3, taking the square f5 from the knight, and now this bishop has a very strong diagonal from h3 to c8. And of course, then afterwards he can play b3 and develop his bishop on c1 to be the diagonal a1, h8. But let's go back some moves. Because in this position, then Fritz actually thinks that queen b5 is very interesting, winning a pawn. At least you have a lot of ideas now to experiment on your own. But let's see the move e6. So I played d3 with the idea to play e4. Now Thomas, he played bishop b4 check, and of course it doesn't really make much sense to do. But I played c3, and now he went back on d6. So I continued with e4, winning space. D takes e4, D takes e4, and already I'm threatening to play e4 to e5, winning a piece. So black has to play e5. And now after g5, the knight will have to go back on g8, and after I continue with f5, I definitely have a clear advantage. Not only do I have more space, but the bishop on f1 is very powerful because black is weak on his white squares, and especially the point f7 or the pawn f7 is very weak. Now he played h7 to h6, and I continued with h4. h4 is actually not the best move. Afterwards, I was analyzing with Fritz, and Fritz said queen to h5, it's much stronger. Now, for example, after knight e7 and bishop c4, there is no defense. The position is just lost. For example, after g6, white can win directly with bishop takes f7 check. But I will show this variation in the second game. Now I will go back to the position, and as I said, I didn't play queen h5, instead I played h4. And of course, it's not usual to see a grandmaster game played like this, only with pawn moves and queen moves in the opening, because after black next move, bishop to e7, then white continues with queen h5. We are in move 14, and he has used 2 queen moves, and the rest is pawn moves. Very unusual. Now after knight b6, white of course continue with his development. Queen g6 and knight a3. Now this knight can go to b5 or c4. After c6, I decide to go to c4. Knight takes c4, not a good move, because after bishop takes c4, there is no defense on f7, and therefore I will consider the position as won. Black cast long, and now white cannot take on f7. If he takes on f7 with the bishop, then black will have counter-attack with queen to d3. Not good. So instead, I played rook to h2. The idea is to play rook d2 and double the rooks on the d file, activate the last pieces. Now he played queen to c7, and here I absolutely see no reason not to take on f7, winning a pawn. The combination that he now does is of course not working, but that was his only chance, he thought. Queen takes h8, and after knight h6 I just take on g7. Now he played knight g4, attacking both the bishop on e3 and the rook on h2. But white has a very strong knockout move here. I will give you some seconds to find the move. Yes, the move is f5 to f6, attacking the bishop on e7. And not only is he attacking the bishop on e7, but he's also threatening bishop f7 to e6 check, winning the knight on g4. Whether he plays knight takes e3 or knight takes the rook on h2 doesn't help him, because after bishop e6 check and winning the bishop on e7, the white position is just won. In this position, Thomas Luthers gave up.